Hi everybody, we're going to try again on mobile. I did try a second ago and my Wi-Fi is terrible. So hopefully you can hear me. I've got the microphone connected today just to try and help with the background noise. The kids are sick of each other's shit just as much as I'm sick of their shit, so they're probably going to scream and fight and carry on. So hopefully you can hear me. If anyone does pop on live, I shall ask. If not, you'll all be watching this later. I do have one person on live. Whoever you are, if you can actually hear me, can you just comment or give me a thumbs up or something? Because I'm just trying a different microphone today to try and help with background noise. So if you can hear me, can you please comment or thumbs up? Thank you, Hayley. Excellent. All right, so more information has come out about the Jobkeeper payment overnight, and I want to go through it. This is going to be a little bit of a long one, but I will go through it as clearly as I can. But I do want to start very, very first up saying that if you are a sole trader or you are the director of a company trust situation and you're not on employee wages usually, there is no specific information on how you can claim and how to pay yourself yet. So still pay attention to all of the eligibility criteria and things like that. But I just wanted to say that at the beginning now because a lot of you are trying to find that information and we just don't have it. So if you are a director of a company and you get paid payroll every week as like usual, a lot of directors do, I believe that you will be able to just nominate as an employee like you do with everybody else, which we'll go through. But if you're a director of a company and you just kind of like are taking director's drawings and then your accountant records it at the end of the year, you will kind of fall in the same basket as a sole trader, and how you will actually pay yourself will be a little bit different, a slightly different process. While I'm talking about it, only one person can be a nominated person for an ABN. So if you are a company and you have 2 or 3 directors, only one of you can be a nominated person against that ABN. So when that information comes out, I will do another video or just update the other post. But I just wanted to start with that in case that's all you're here for, in which case, see ya. If not, let's have a look at the eligibility criteria. So I'm reading from the computer so that I do not get any wordings wrong. But the Jobkeeper payment is open to eligible employers to enable them to pay their eligible employees' salary or wages of at least $1,500 before tax per fortnight. So the new information, I've been through all of that before. The new information is that eligibility wise, sorry, I've got a lot of windows open here. Employers will be eligible for the Jobkeeper payment if the following apply. On the 1st of March 2020, you carried on a business in Australia and you were a not-for-profit organisation. You employed at least one eligible employee on the 1st of March 2020. Sole traders, you've got a side on that, so don't worry. That doesn't mean that you're not eligible. Your eligible employees are currently employed by your business for the fortnights you claim for, including those who you stood down and rehired. We'll go through that. And your business has faced a 30% fall in turnover, and they're calling it GST turnover. I'll explain that. You've experienced a 30% fall in turnover if you have a turnover of $1 billion or less. If you have $1 billion or more, you're probably not following me, and I'm not going to go through that criteria, but it's there. You should note that turnover calculator is based on GST turnover. Now, that does not mean that you have to be registered for GST. It is just GST turnover. What is that? I'm going to read it directly from the ATO website so that you can get it exactly correct. GST turnover is, I wrote down the sum here before. Let me find my notes because I've lost the page that I was on. Basically, it is your gross turnover, so not minus expenses, your gross turnover, total income, minus any GST that is included in the sales. And that is your GST turnover. So obviously you cannot, you do not include the GST amount in your sales. Now, in saying that, you don't need to do anything special to calculate that. Your profit and loss out of your accounting system actually doesn't show you the GST. So really, really quickly, when you have $550 come into your business and $50 of it is GST, $500 of it goes into your income account and $50 of it goes into your GST account. So the GST never actually shows on your profit and loss as long as the settings are set that way in your system. Most of them are by default. So when you're pulling a profit and loss, just check if there's an option in your system to include GST or not. And obviously when you do your BAS, you have to say whether it's got GST in it or not. But if you pull your profit and loss, it shouldn't show it by default most of the time. I don't know of a program that would, except for maybe like Wave. If you're using Wave, it's not set up for GST. It's probably showing in there. But if you're using, say, QuickBooks, MyOb, Xero, that were designed for Australia and the GST, it probably isn't showing in your profit and loss. So that is your GST turnover. Total income of the business minus the GST. That is your turnover. So you have to have a 30% fall in turnover. And there is some specifications around that. So how to calculate a fall in turnover. And you have to calculate this for the first fortnight starting the 30th of March. So they have, when they talk about their fortnights, they've specified them. They don't actually, you don't have to pay in their fortnights, you pay in your own. But to work out your fall in turnover, you can compare either the GST turnover for March 2020 with the GST turnover for March 2019. So you take March's turnover minus the GST and compare it with March 2019 and work out the percentage. And you can do that on Google. Just Google what percentage of the higher amount is lower amount. It'll calculate it for you. You don't even have to work out maths. It's great. Your second option is your projected GST turnover for April 2020 with the GST turnover for April 2019. How do you project your turnover? Well, if you're a pub club that's closed, beautician, it's going to be zero, isn't it? Unless you're selling some things takeaway. But you can project your turnover. Your third option is the projected GST turnover for the quarter starting April 2020 with the GST turnover for the quarter starting April 2019. No worries, Kylie, it'll be here when you want to watch it later. So why is it the quarter starting in April? Well, because it's the ATO, they work in the quarters to do with GST, even if you're not registered. So January, February, March was that quarter. It's fair to say that January and February will skew your data. So they are going to allow you to project your turnover for April, May and June and compare it with your turnover from last quarter. So that is how you calculate your turnover. It has to be in comparison to last year rather than in comparison to last month. Side note, that's a little frustrating for any of you who started late last year, and I know hundreds of businesses, probably about 2/3 of the businesses that I saw last year had only just started, so that's really frustrating. But register your interest anyway and we'll see what we can do. If you're not sure about how to work out your turnover, please reach out because I can give you a hand specific to your situation. For the majority of people though, you're probably going to see that downturn and you'll be fine. So that is that section. Let me check that I'm not missing anything from this page. I'm going to post the link to the first page on the ATO, and it's got really useful links down the bottom, and you just kind of like follow it along like a cookie trail. So yes, it says sole traders can be eligible for the JobKeeper payment if their business has experienced a downturn according to the eligibility criteria, and they'll provide more information soon about the eligibility of sole traders. Little note, when we get to it, it's going to tell you how you had to have paid your employees to be eligible. As a sole trader, you do not ever pay yourself through payroll, ever. You take drawings. So no, you do not need to go and put yourself through payroll, and I'll talk about that when we get to that section, but you don't need to be paid through payroll. Other business owners that are actively engaged in their business in the form of a company, trust, or partnership can also qualify for JobKeeper payments where a business owner who is a shareholder, an adult beneficiary, or a partner is actively engaged in the business, or a director is actively engaged in the business. So if you are a director and you're not on normal payroll, but you are actively engaged, or if, say you're a husband and wife, and the husband might get paid wages through payroll as usual, but the wife is actively engaged because she does the bookwork, but she doesn't really get paid through payroll because she lives off of the husband's wage. Let's just say that, for example, she would be actively engaged in the business. They can nominate as a nominated person, but like I said before, limited to one entitlement for each entity, even if there are multiple business owners or participants. They will provide more information soon about the eligibility of those businesses for the JobKeeper payments. So hold tight on those ones if that's you. We have got the turnover. If you're an entity that is a larger group, say you're a childcare centre and you have multiple centres across the nation and you're one company, there are actually some little, I don't know if the word is caveat. I'm really bad with English, and English is my first language. There's like a little side thing for you guys where you can base it on GST groupings. Probably no one in this group is in that situation, but if you are, please reach out and I can talk you through it. Okay, so your eligible employees. How are your employees eligible? Because not all of your employees will be eligible. So if you've ticked all of the boxes that your business is eligible, now you need to make sure that your employees are eligible. Your employee is eligible under the JobKeeper payment scheme if they are employed by you, and that includes those who were stood down, or if you let your employees go rather than standing them down. So standing someone down means I'm standing you down, you have a job later, but we're not going to pay you while you're stood down. But you have a job when we can reopen. So most of the beauticians would have done that. If you fired them, you let them go, you release them from their employment, you can rehire them underneath this scheme and they would then be eligible. There's a few extra bits and pieces, but you can rehire staff. They need to be a permanent part-time employee as at the 1st of March. Does not matter how long they were employed for. If they are full-time or a permanent part-time employee, they're eligible. And if they are casual, Elise, you can watch from the beginning when I finish. It'll save and come back in the group. Long-term casual employees have to have been employed for 12 months. So casual employees, they have to have been employed for 12 months on a regular basis. They need to be 16 years of age from the 1st of March. They need to be an Australian resident or specific visa holders. So if that is you and your employees are on visas, read the ATO information, reach out if you need a hand then. And they are not a recipient of any of the other payments during JobKeeper fortnight. For example, government parental leave or dad and partner pay. So if they are on parental leave, not eligible, or a payment in accordance with Australian worker compensation law for an individual's total incapacity for work. So if they are on a work cover payment, they're ineligible for JobKeeper as well. And they must agree to be nominated by you as an employee and receive the payment through their business. You cannot claim for employees who were first employed by you after the 1st of March or left your employment before the 1st of March, or they have been or have agreed to be nominated by another employer. So if they have 2 jobs, you need to see if they want to be nominated by you or the other employer. Casual employees are not eligible unless they were employed by you on a regular and systematic basis for at least 12 months. So what does that mean? You have to just be able to show that they had regular hours with you for the last 12 months. So seasonal employees may find that a little bit difficult. Your employees, if they have multiple employers, they can choose who they want to be nominated by. So how do you nominate an employee? This is really important. Before you enroll to receive JobKeeper payments, you need to notify each eligible employee that you intend to nominate them as eligible employees under the JobKeeper scheme. How do you do that? There is a specific form. There is a link on their website. I'll make sure that I do another post with all of these links, or I might just add it on to the original one actually. I would be emailing them with the form, telling them that they are eligible and that you are planning to nominate them. They need to then fill that form out and give it back to you. You do not need to lodge that form with the ATO, but you do need to keep it for your records. So for those employees who have don't have access to printers and things like that, what I would suggest, and this is my suggestion, not the ATO's, is that you send them the form with an email, letting them know that you need the form filled in and that you need it for your records. If they cannot print it, I would have them reply to the email stating that yes, they give approval, and then post them a form with an envelope for them to post it back, or they can drop it in, or if you can see them, they can just come and pick it up. You don't have to post it, but just send them a form, get them to fill it in and get it back from them. But that email saying yes is enough to at least get the ball rolling for you, so that you know who to start preparing documents for. So employees who were stood down or on long-term leave. Employees who have been stood down from work under the Fair Work Act without pay may still be eligible employees as long as they were in your employment and met the eligibility criteria on the 1st of March. You will need to have paid them at least the minimum amount of $1,500 for each fortnight you claim for to receive the JobKeeper payment. I'll talk a little bit more on that in one moment. The employees who have been terminated, if you have terminated an employee after the 1st of March, you can re-engage them and they will be eligible if they met criteria on the 1st of March. So if you fired them after the 1st of March, you can now rehire them and pay them with this payment. They need to confirm that they want to be rehired and participate in the JobKeeper scheme with you. You need to re-engage them and keep in mind that they are then back underneath your employment and you can't just let them go at the end of the JobKeeper payment again, that you have to follow Fair Work laws again. You need to complete the employer nomination notice form and ask them to complete their section of it and return it to you. And you need to keep it. Keep it for 7 years, the same as you do with all your source documents. It doesn't say 7 years on the ATO website, I'm just assuming. And you need to start paying them a minimum of $1,500 before tax for each fortnight that they are employed and you want to claim for. Again, I'll talk about that again in a second. Right, so if you are eligible, the business is eligible, you've had the downturn in income, and now your employees, at least some of them or one of them are eligible, we go on to the next section. So the next is the amount of the JobKeeper payment. So as an employer, you will receive a payment of $1,500 per employee per fortnight, as long as you and your employees meet the eligibility criteria. We will pay you for each eligible employee monthly in arrears. And that will begin in May 2020, and the payments will start the first week of May. So we're already in April. So hang on. They will begin in May. I haven't got to that next bit yet. I've got all this information in my head that I'm remembering. But the payments are going to start in May from the first week in May for the April period, and that starts in March. That's where I'm getting confused. Please forgive me. So they will pay you basically $3,000 a month. There is a table with the amounts that you'll get paid, because in September you'll get paid for $4,500 because the fortnights in the month, that there ends up being 3 fortnights in that month. You can get that online, and they'll probably give it to you when you apply. Where is that other one? I've lost a page, I'm sure of it. Let me just quickly flick and see. I know I've missed one page because I've read it. Okay, here we go. This is the important part about how and what to pay and all that sort of stuff. So you can enroll for the Jobkeeper payment from the 20th of April onwards. The 20th of April, so that's 5 days' time. You can enroll then. If you haven't already gone and registered your interest, go and register your interest. It's on the post in this group that's about the Jobkeeper payment that we had a couple of last week. Wow, that seems like so long ago. It was like last week. There's a link on there for you to go and register your interest. Go and register your interest so that you'll get sent an email. But you can enroll for the Jobkeeper payment from the 20th of April. So you go and register your interest and check that you and your employees meet the eligibility criteria. It says to continue to pay at least $1,500 to each eligible employee per Jobkeeper fortnight. And the first Jobkeeper fortnight is the period from the 30th of March to the 12th of April. Notify your employees that you are intending to claim the Jobkeeper payment on their behalf, and check that they aren't claiming Jobkeeper payment through any other employer. Send them the form. From the 20th of April 2020, you can enroll with the ATO for the Jobkeeper payment using the business portal and authenticate with MyGov ID. You must do this by the end of April to claim the Jobkeeper payments for April. So a little bit on that. If you haven't already, you used to use an Oz key to access the business portal. It is gone. It finished on, I think, about the 26th of March. Great bloody timing because of the virus. But anyway, it's a little bit complicated, but you need a MyGov ID, which is completely different from MyGov that you use to access Centrelink and things like that. So there is an app for your phone called MyGov ID. You then use that to authenticate who you are, your license, passport, things like that. So download that app. You have to scan your documents and prove that you are you. Then you go to the relationships manager. So if you just Google business portal, it'll give you all of these instructions as well. And I might do a separate post on it. You then have to log into the relationships manager. And you need to be an authorized person on the ABN to do this. If you're the sole trader or the director of the company, you're already authorized. So you log into the relationships authentication manager, I think it's called. And you basically just say, yes, that's the ABN that I want to connect, and here's my MyGov ID. And it's a bit weird. You put in the email address that you use for your MyGov ID app, and the code comes up on your phone, you click accept, and your computer logs in. It's a little strange. So then once you've done that, you are then able to log into the business portal from the ATO. Weird, fucking annoying system, but it's the way it is. Once you've done that once, you just use the MyGov ID to log in again and again and again to the business portal. So you will be using the business portal to enroll for the payment. Once I know exactly how that works, I'll let you know. And you must do that by the end of April if you wish to claim for April. So make sure that you put the 20th of April in your diary to go and do this. It's likely it'll crash. It's the ATO and it's a website. It's probably going to crash. So they're saying the end of April, but you know, if it keeps crashing, just keep trying. In the online form, yes, Hayley, if it's silly, just to clarify, we were closed for half of March last year, so should I work off projected sales for April this year compared to April 2019? What if my projections are not accurate? Will there be penalties? It's a really great question, Hayley. They haven't actually said anything about that. They haven't said that they're going to go back and check. I did read somewhere, and I don't have this page anywhere, so don't shoot me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that you only have to apply once. And once you are eligible, that is it. for the entire 6 months. So if your business picks back up, it doesn't matter, you're still eligible. I read that earlier this morning. For you, Hayley, if you were closed for half of March last year, I reckon we can probably look at April. Let's chat about that after. I'll have a bit of a think about it. I reckon you'll probably need to use April. So from the 20th of April, you can enroll. In the online form, you provide your bank details and you indicate if you are claiming an entitlement based on business participation. For example, if you're a sole trader. So sole traders, you will actually be able to apply on the 20th of April as well. You're welcome, Hayley. In the online, I read that, specified the estimated number of employees who will be eligible for the first JobKeeper fortnight, 30th of April to the 12th of April, and the second JobKeeper fortnight, 13th of April to the 26th of April. So you need to specify that. Confirmation of eligible employees you will claim JobKeeper payment for will be available from the 4th of May. So 20th of April, you enroll as the business, and from the 4th of May onwards, you'll actually start inputting your employees' details. So you'll be able to apply to claim on the ATO business portal. It says, ensure you have paid each eligible employee a minimum of $1,500 per JobKeeper fortnight before tax, and identify your eligible employees in the application form. Submit the confirmation for your eligible employees online and wait for your confirmation email or SMS showing it has been received. Notify your eligible employees that you have nominated them. We will pay you the JobKeeper payment for all eligible employees after receiving your application. Each month you will need to reconfirm that your reported eligible employees have not changed through ATO online services. So each month you'll need to reconfirm that your eligible employees have not changed through the business portal or ATO online services or via your registered tax agent. And this will ensure that you will continue to receive the JobKeeper payment from them. You do not need to retest your reported fall in turnover, but you will need to provide some information as to your current and projected turnover, and this will be done in your monthly JobKeeper declaration report. Hayley, that may answer your question, because if you're projecting for the month ahead and then you do a declaration at the end of the month, I guess they will then have a look at that and make sure that, you didn't project $5 and you earned $500. So it doesn't say specifically, we will now go and retest. But I would say that if you project your turnover and it is grossly different, they'll probably stop your payment from that month onwards. My assumption, not ATO's wording, my assumption. If your eligible employees change or leave your employment, you'll need to notify them through the monthly JobKeeper declaration report. Now remember, they are paying you for the month in arrears. So Hayley, if you actually nominated your projected amount and then you got to the end of the month and you put in your JobKeeper declaration report, it's actually going to pay you in arrears anyway. So that probably answers that question there, that there won't be a penalty, they just won't pay you because they'll have the information. Is this the section that I want? Here we go. Paying your employees. So you need to pay your eligible employees at least the minimum amount of $1,500, even if you rehire them or they earn less than this per fortnight. You cannot pay your employees less than $1,500 per fortnight and keep the difference. You will not be eligible for the JobKeeper payment if you pay your nominated employee less than $1,500 per fortnight. Keep in mind, Single Touch Payroll is now active and they will know exactly what you've paid your employees because you're going to be lodging it every week, fortnight, month. You will need to restart or continue to pay your eligible employees at least $1,500 a fortnight in line with your existing pay cycle through your existing payroll solution. So I don't want to confuse you too much, but their fortnight starts on the 30th of March. If your pay cycle goes either side of that, you will have to work out what the pro rata amount is for that period between the 30th of March and the end of your pay run. Obviously, after that, $1,500 a fortnight is fine. You're welcome, Dan. But you'll need to do a bit of a pro rata amount for that first bit if you want that first fortnight, because basically think of it like this: have their pay fortnights here, and there's their pay fortnights. I really need a whiteboard for this sort of stuff. And then here's your pay week, fortnight, months, and they land here. So think of it broken down into days then, and sort of like combine the days. Please reach out. I can help you with this. Payroll is my jam. If you usually pay your employees less frequently than fortnightly, the payment can be allocated between the fortnights in a reasonable manner. And if you pay your employee in a monthly cycle, then they have to receive the equivalent of $1,500 per fortnight in that month. So you just divide it. Now, it's $1,500 before tax. Remember that part. So you must pay them the minimum amount per fortnight to claim the JobKeeper payment for that fortnight. So obviously you could just claim from the second fortnight. You don't have to claim from the first fortnight if you don't want to. You can claim from the second fortnight. There is a little extra coming up, so stay with me. Eligible, if you're, yes, that. Tax consequences. I can't find the bit that I want. Again, bloody tax websites. Tax consequences. All JobKeeper payments are assessable income of the business that is eligible to receive these payments. What I suggest is setting up a separate income account in your chart of accounts and call it JobKeeper income, just so that you can separate it out from your normal income when you're doing your projections and things like that. It doesn't say whether you should be including that in your projections or not. I would assume that they don't want to see that in your included projections, but just keep it separate anyway. It's good practice to do that. You are then considering that income. However, you're paying the full amount out to your employees in wages and their tax. So it's a complete expense. So it'll write each other off in your chart of accounts. So don't worry about it, but just know that you do record it as normal income and it goes out as a normal employee expense. On that note, you may want to set up a different pay type in your payroll so that you know that you are paying them JobKeeper payment, especially if they're casuals or they used to earn less. You might want to put in separate. It's up to you. You don't have to do that. It's not an ATO requirement. There are new rules being introduced by the government with the intention to not require super guarantee to be paid on any additional payments that are made to employees as a result of the JobKeeper payments, and they will update that later. So there was examples of that a little while ago where you pay them the normal amount and then anything extra you don't have to pay the super on top of that. So there'll be more information about that. There are some examples on the ATO website, but I do want to find this thing, when to pay. You should pay your employees for each JobKeeper fortnight that you plan to claim for, and the first fortnight is from the 30th of March until the 12th of April, and each JobKeeper fortnight follows after that. For the first 2 fortnights, we will accept the minimum $1,500 payment for each fortnight has been paid by you, even if it has been paid late, provided it is paid by you by the end of April. So this means that you can make 2 fortnightly payments of at least $1,500 per fortnight before the end of April, or a combined payment of at least $3,000 before the end of April. So what does that mean? It is now the 15th of April, so obviously you would have paid your employees prior to now. Those that you stood down, you would have paid them nothing. What it is saying is you can now go back and run a payroll for those fortnights and pay it by the end of April. Remember, this is a payment in arrears, so you can't wait for them to pay you and then pay your employees. They'll be checking that you've paid it. So if you were stood down, go back and run your payroll and make sure that you pay them the $1,500. If you've already paid payroll and you paid them less than $1,500 because that's what their contract states or their casuals, what you'll need to do is go in and do, it's called an unscheduled pay run in Xero. It's very, very similar in QuickBooks and MyOb. You can go in and run a secondary pay run to basically top up those pay runs. So I don't suggest going in and editing the ones that you have, because you've already lodged them with single touch payroll and things like that. I suggest doing an unscheduled pay run. You can do it for the entire month, like an unscheduled pay run that'll cover the entire month. And what you do is you pay them the rest, so that they received $1,500 before tax in the 2 fortnights in the month. So you can go back and alter your payroll. I would be looking at it now and pay it by the end of April. What if you don't have the money to pay the payroll? Find it. I hate to be kind of the hard ass in this part because I understand. I have an employee not eligible for this, so obviously I'm not going to be applying for this one for her, but I'll be applying for it for me as a sole trader. There are ways to get this money. So there are loans that you can go and get that are unsecured loans at the moment. So you might be able to go and get a loan from your bank for the amount of payroll. I would suggest getting 2 months worth of payroll just to give you that leeway. I don't like telling people to go and get loans because you have to eventually be able to pay them. However, go and get the loan for that amount. You get reimbursed, you pay them. You get reimbursed, you pay them. You get reimbursed, you pay them. So eventually, at the end of the 6 months, you'll get reimbursed. You don't have to pay them out of that. You can then use that to pay off your loan. So that would be one suggestion. Another suggestion is credit card. If you have a credit card, I don't like suggesting that one either. You might want to use the credit card to get the money out that way. If you've got savings, use it. If you have someone that you can borrow the money from, borrow it. Put it into the company's bank account, pay them out of that. Whatever you do, do not make a deal with your employee to pay them later, because you will get caught out and you'll be made to pay it all back. So find it somehow. Beg, steal, borrow, probably not steal, beg, borrow. Find it somehow. This might be where you consider those employees that you've stood down. How many can you afford to bring back? How many can you afford to pay? And how many are you going to need at the end of this? It might be that you don't offer all of the employees that you stood down a job back. Bit harsh, but it is business. So you've got to pay them the minimum amount. I don't think there's anything else in that I need to worry about. No, that is it. Very, very complicated. I know. I really hope that has explained it. I know this was a long video. It was like that intentionally because I didn't want to gloss over anything. If you have any additional questions, please ask them. I know that the live videos are sometimes a little bit funny to comment on. I'm going to be going now and posting some extra information on the Jobkeeper posts. So remember, in the group, you can search by topic and look for the COVID-19 topic. And it'll just show you the posts in the group that are about those grants and subsidies. But I'm going to comment on it in a minute, so it's going to pop right back up the top. So there's going to be some links on there, some more information, all that sort of stuff. Feel free to comment on there. Feel free to just message me on the Healthy Entrepreneur page, or I think you can do it through the group. Please reach out. This is my area of expertise. This is what I do day in, day out. Payroll is my expertise. I was a bookkeeper. I had my own bookkeeping firm for 4 years. So payroll is something that I'm quite knowledgeable about. And grants is also my thing. And determining what ATO language is and government language. So if anything that I have just covered still doesn't make any sense, please ask. I try to explain things as easily as I can, but of course I still have my financial brain and sometimes it doesn't come across as easy to understand. If you have any questions like what Hayley had about what period should I be combining and how do I project my turnover, things like that, please reach out. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you around that. If you are a sole trader or director of a company, like I said, that information on how to exactly pay yourself hasn't quite come out yet. Please go and still register your interest, and on the 20th of April, enroll the business, and we'll worry about it after that. They will give us information. So that is it for JobKeeper. If there are any other of the grants or subsidies that you want explained in a video like this, remember they are all in a post with plain English. And a lot of the fact sheets have actually been pretty damn good, I must say. This one's a bit confusing. ATO and tax law for you. Let me know and I can do a video on those ones too. If not, I'm going to get off. You'll now be able to watch from the start. And please just reach out with any questions. Bye.